very excited to host a phenomenal panel here. In general, there is a tag around Indian companies fast following US companies, right? And sometimes you say, hey, this is Uber for India, or this is Airbnb for India, right? It's just like copying business models used to be a thing. But there are three people here who have actually created companies which were category creators and scaled to the next level. And we have the honor of having Khadim, the CEO of Whatfix, Neha Singh, the CEO of Traxon, and Ravi, the CEO of MoEngage. Each one have trailblazed into creating a category, scaling it globally from Bangalore, from India. It's a great achievement. To start with, I want to ask each one of you, right? I mean, when we say category creation, in your definition, what would be the category that you created? Khadim, maybe you can start.
Let me start with some background. Okay, first of all, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting. So, like today, if you see in every enterprises, there are hundreds of applications that are deploying, right? Any large enterprise today has more than 900 softwares. That means they're spending several hundreds of millions of dollars every year on digitization. And that's with an intent that they will improve efficiency or pass on some benefits to the customers. But that will only get realized if those softwares are getting utilized in the right way, effective and efficiently by their employees and by the end users. So far it was happening with classroom trainings, support tickets or knowledge base, wikis, right? But the world has moved, everybody wants something on demand, right? Whether Uber or Netflix, movies, everything, right? So how come the onboarding, adoption, engagement is still off context? So that was the category, the problem statement we were trying to solve. Can we help people, make them learn in the flow of work? Can we give them guidance on the top of software, like how GPS guides you on the road? Can users be guided in the software? So it's kind of a GPS for the software. We didn't even have name of the category at that point. We used to look at different ways of support, different ways of training, different ways of engagement. Gradually, category evolved. Now it's called digital adoption. We are ranked #1 by Forrester globally. So as of now, Whatfix, we help enterprises to realize the ROI on the digital stack and help improve productivity for employees. That's what this category is about. Just to give more context, 73% of the revenue comes from the US. Around 20% comes from UK, Germany, France. Around 5-6% comes from Australia. So we're very focused on a few geographies. We cater to the sweet spot is enterprises. Any company which is having more than 1,000 employees. We have 75 Fortune 500 as a customers today. Around close to 200 global 1,000. Yeah, so that's the category that's about Whatfix.
The GPS made a lot of sense to me. I think that was a great analogy. Yeah, maybe you can share about your journey. And I think one thing that you should also share about is like, how did you take a category, create it, and go IPO? That is like the interesting aspect that you would love to hear.
Thank you so much. So for those who don't know about Traxon, so Traxon essentially is a private market intelligence platform. So before starting Traxon, both me and my co-founder were investors. So I used to work at Sequoia Capital, and the vertical that we cater to are the private market investors and large corporates, essentially anyone who's looking at the private markets for either making an investment or acquiring companies or buying sort of products. So as investors, we realized that there was no platform. So whenever we had to search for interesting companies, we literally had to do a lot of interesting things like go to job boards or see holding of companies or talk to people and then find out interesting companies. So it was very manual. And secondly, when we would be evaluating a company, you are always going to Google, figuring out okay who else exists in that market, and you're doing that like 5 times in a day. And then we realized there has to be like a Bloomberg for the private markets, or there has to be platforms which exist for the private markets, and nothing sort of existed. So that's how Traxon got born about 10 years back. And today we are about 800 member team. We have customers in over 50 countries. 70% of our revenue nearly is outside India. Our customers include your large VC funds, PE funds, and corporates M&A team. We have a lot of Fortune 500 as the corporations as well as the customers as well, and like probably 30% distribution across Americas, Europe, and India in terms of our revenue base. So that's briefly about Traction, the segment we go.
You missed the IPO part.
Yeah, so that's interesting for us. We got listed about 7 months back, and obviously this is something that you would have hoped when you were just starting that maybe in some point in time you will actually become listed. We started working on that when we became profitable because as investors that's how we had seen that Indian public markets require sort of profitability. Which had changed in between, but at least we were hardwired towards that. And then when we started, that happened end of 2020s when we actually started the process. Obviously, the process itself takes like a year, and the whole filing, etc. And eventually, despite the market's ups and downs, realized it's very unpredictable. But we were lucky to have got listed, about 7 months back. So.
On that, I think pressure is on Ravi now to get listed as well. But start off, Ravi, I think can you talk about your category and how you went about it?
Sure. I think as MoEngage, we started off in 2014. And before that, I was running a consumer business myself, which was a mobile-first company, like a mobile app, which helped people discover offers and coupons from local sourcing retailers. And at that point of time, we have seen the challenges of driving, seeing challenges of retention, high uninstall rates. A lot of users actually install the apps, but they don't end up using after 30 days and then uninstall. And then when we start speaking to various companies, many other companies have the same problem. Like this could be the largest consumer brands out there. And this was the kind of the time change that was happening, that where companies are moving from focusing on driving installs to driving retention and engagement. And at the point of time, they had tools to kind of understand like analytics, like what are people doing, but they did not have any tools to kind of engage with customers and improve engagement, reduce churn, and so on. And we started calling ourselves as a mobile engagement platform, and that's where MoEngage even name comes from. Back then in 2014, when we were doing this, we were the first company doing this in our space, and it was mainly that we were connected to the pain point that everyone was facing. And over the first, I think a 3 to 4 year time frame, Gartner started putting this category called mobile engagement automation, right? So, and then now we are in a much larger category. I think over the years, I think now we are in a much larger, mature category over the last 9 years as well. Today, MoEngage as a company, we call ourselves as an insights-led customer engagement platform, and primarily focus on consumer businesses across various verticals, and we are a bit more diverse in terms of geographies. So 35% of the business comes from Americas and India, 40% of the business comes from India, and 25% of the business comes from Southeast Asia. So more diverse in nature, some of them. I think quite diverse in terms of even customer base, in terms of digital natives as well as large enterprises.
Thank you so much. I think I'm inspired to create a new category. It's not easy. I think I want to start with Neha here. Neha, I think when you started, what were the existing solutions? Like what were people doing to invest in private companies? Like what was if Traction did not exist, what would people do? What were they doing?
So that's a very interesting question. So in our case, interestingly, ours was a greenfield market. So nothing existed before that. And this was something that people used to do either manually or funds would do that repetitively across the funds. And so for us, actually, we started in US first. So when I was in Stanford, we actually got incubated in one fund office, Lightspeed, which is having their office very close by to the campus. And we actually spent the first 3 months in figuring out what product to launch. So there wasn't good or bad. There wasn't any product that you could say that this is the replacement or this is the better version of this product that you're launching. You actually had to figure out, okay, what is the product, what is the pricing. And for us, actually, we spent the first 3 months working with a few set of customers in figuring out, okay, what module to launch from. So obviously, we realized that private market data is a large opportunity, but you could actually launch it in a variety of manners. You could launch it with like a $100 product, you could launch it with a $5,000 product or mid price point. So we actually experimented with all of this because there was no product which existed, and we sort of worked initially with the set of customers to arrive at the pricing and the product. And once we had that initial repeatable sales, we realized, okay, this is working. So I would say it's good and bad. Like greenfield market, it's good in the sense that there is no competition, so that's easy. But the second thing is that you have to convince people that you have to buy a software. So I think that was the initial. Now obviously things have changed. But the initial couple of years, people were always debating, whether we should buy a software or I can just do it through my network or do it individually.
Are there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so actually before ThoughtFix, we were building another solution for small businesses, helping them improve their social media search visibility. And customers would see the ROI only if they implement the recommendations what we were providing, which of recommendations we were giving. And we were saying they were not implementing those, and there was a lot of challenge. So we were trying to fix that problem of self-serve, and that's where the idea of ThoughtFix was born. Right? And the name also came from Fix It button, what we had there at that point. Now, what do we call this in terms of solution? Right? So we started calling it interactive FAQs. Later on, we came up with some white papers of like there are some systems which can engage on in the flow of work can be called also performance support systems. We did a lot of search, we did a lot of Google, like what kind of training systems are available, what kind of health systems are available. We couldn't find something what we were trying to do at that point, right? And most of the customers, prospects were actually solving those problems via putting help documents in place or video-based trainings or classroom trainings, and those are the traditional ways. So we realized that there's nothing available, and this is something big we can actually disrupt, and we started actually going ahead with this problem. Like I think around 8 to 9 months, 10 months down the line, we saw a couple of articles in TechCrunch and all that. A couple of other companies also trying to solve the same problem, but they were calling themselves something else. So over a period of time, what happened that multiple players globally, which were trying to solve this problem a little bit different way, but the end solution was very, this problem statement was similar. And everybody started actually working very closely with partners, Forrester. We spent 3 to 4 years, in fact, talking to 60, 70 analysts with partners and Forresters, finally defining and shaping the category. And later on, the category was coined as digital adoption solutions. We call ourselves digital adoption platform. And when multiple players globally actually started contributing to the category, it started shaping up really fast. And there was an inflection point a couple of years back where a lot of large enterprises and Fortune companies would start defining the budget, started defining to get this solution in place.
Sorry?
Yeah, I think many times, in terms of especially when you're doing category creation, where there are some changes that are happening in the industry which would basically kind of make your product very relevant at that point of time. So in our case, multiple things. One is the rise in mobile apps as an important customer touch point. So that was one. The second part is, I mean, there were tools available to kind of like send emails, send SMS, like even tools like Firebase to send notifications. But what was more important was to kind of have a more real-time streaming-based product where you can actually kind of understand the customer behavior and engage with the users in the moment. That was not there. And we were able to kind of build that sort of a product which basically kind of takes all this real-time customer behavior and enables brands to kind of solve for the problems of retention as well as increasing their revenue and so on, right? So I think that's basically the insight, and we obviously kind of invested in kind of the product market fit, and I'm happy to talk about more about that.
You actually stole my next question, right? I think category creation comes with significant product market fit issues, right? Because it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, how do you sell it to your first 10 customers? I would love to hear from you as to like, how did you get your first 10 customers?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Yeah, I think so. When it comes to the first 10 customers, I think the way we did it, and I'm happy to kind of share what we could have done differently, but I think the way we did it is one is like we were running a consumer business for 3 years, and we thought, okay, we already spent too much time, and so we said, let's be very honest when we are kind of building this new company. So we had to be very honest to ourselves, and we said, okay, let's not kind of go asking for feedback. So we identified that, I mean, mobile commerce companies could be a good ICP for us to start with. And then we identified those companies, and initially it was, we focused on India as a market, and we started reaching out to them. And then we set up calls and meetings, and we did not ask for feedback. We said, we built a kind of a nice, good-looking UI, but nothing works in the backend, but more of a prototype sort of a feel. But we built a nice deck and asking for like, okay, why don't you use the product? And here is the pricing. So that's the kind of approach we took. And I think in our case, I think probably the timing was right in terms of the pain point at that point of time. And especially in category creation, one thing I felt is it's important to focus on selling the problem or the pain more than the solution. If the prospects really appreciate the problem and the pain point, then they will actually appreciate your solution more. So I think that's where I think we focused. I mean, if I look back, I think that's what worked for us. We were able to relate very well to the pain point, and then prospects were able to relate to it, and that's how we kind of got the first 10 customers. Like Taxi for Sure was our first customer, and Just Eat and Ghana and Snapdeal and some of those first 10 customers that we had.
Let me add. So since it was a new category, we didn't know exactly who would be the persona. So a lot of assumptions were there. But we faced problem ourselves. So we thought, okay, why not target people like us, the founders of our small businesses? So that was our first hypothesis. We made 2 or 3 different landing pages with some variations of the problems. We were only 2 people company. My co-founder started identifying SaaS companies or similar companies in India. I used to start doing them cold mails with some sample solution. We got some 30, 40 meetings in a couple of months, and most of the meetings we were in India, and whenever there were meetings in Bangalore, we used to go in person just to see the reaction of the solution, how they perceive, when we bounce off the price point, how they react, right? So that we can iterate faster. Even when we were doing the pitch, where are the wow factors, what are the factors, what are the areas they are liking, not liking, and so on. We got some customers, 3 to 4 customers from there, and we continued that process. We got 8, 9 customers. All were in India. Most of them were small businesses, SaaS. A couple of them were a little bit substantial size, like Myntra at that point. As we proceeded, we realized that our hypothesis was not correct, because those customers were not implementing our solution, and since they were not implementing or not putting enough effort, they were not seeing the ROI. Now, why they were not implementing? Because it was not must-have for them at that point. Because their priority was different. They were looking what can help them to grow. Engagement comes next, right? So we realized the companies which are like 20 people, 30 people, 50 people company, it will be really nice to have, and we need to change the segment. And that's where you can say our first pivot or change of market we did, and we started going little up market, 200 people and above company and so on. So that's how we continued to iterate. Once we got product market fit, we saw engagement, people were using it, people were not churning, they were asking for more. That's when we started looking at how do we scale further. And again, being a new category, the first 10, 12 customers we got by outbound, right? Let's just reaching out cold. But that cannot scale at an early stage. We thought we need to figure out different ways. So we started looking at inbound channels. But again, there was no category keywords and all. We were getting very few leads, but it helped us to get to a few $100,000 ARR. And then we again started reviving content, added outbound again. Further started spending on events, because events we can actually do a lot more market awareness. And finally, once we got to $3-4 million ARR, even partnerships like OEMs and SIs, those kind of GT motion started working. So that's how I would say we got PMF with a couple of minor pivots, and then identifying one channel after another once we got 10, 15, 20 customers and kept on elaborating.
Any thoughts on that?
So just to add to what they had said, so in our case, again we were working with some set of customers. So we actually sat out of one of our customers' office for the first 3 months, worked with them for initial development of the product, etc. And we actually iterated multiple outputs with them. What sort of works. And once we realized there are 1 or 2 modules for which they are willing to pay a lot of money for. So so another thing that we did is start with like a higher price point, and so right now our pricing is like $600 per user per month. We actually started off with like $5,000 per user per month pricing, and if a customer is willing to pay for that, what is the pain point that I'm solving for them that they're willing to pay for that? So you actually start with that as the pain point, because it's easy to go at a lower price point. I think it's more difficult to go at a higher price point. So you start with that, and then once you're able to do the initial sales. So the initial sales was done by us, the founders, and because it was a new product and category. And for the first, I would say 10 to 15 accounts, we would have sold everyone sort of personally. We would have known people from the network or through introductions, etc. And we would meet the customer, we would understand from them, we work with them, and then once we had sort of that repeatable sales model, that there was one module with which they are willing to pay a lot of money for, and we are also able to deliver a lot of value, because in a data platform there's a little bit of chicken and egg problem. Like you can build a lot of data, they want like a lot of data before you can actually pay a lot of money. So what is that one thing that you can start with, that you can bootstrap, that you can deliver very good quality and they are willing to pay a lot of money from. So we have to figure out what is that one data module that is there. And once we had that, that is when we realized that we have the PMF. And once we had sold to the initial set of customers, is then when we hired another person to be able to do our sales, what we were doing.
Just to add what Neha mentioned, actually a very good point on the pricing part. So as we started looking at different segments, when we started pivoting, specifically from small business to mid-market to enterprise, even our pricing also evolved. Also from cost-based to value-based model. I think it's a whole different topic. So just to give some numbers, I think in early days we used to sell for $1,000 or $2,000 AMR, or MRR, and it evolved to like almost like $90,000.
Price way up. That is one of the strategies. I think while we celebrate your success, right, I think one of the things that I want to address also is like many founders come out of the market or like very early on say that I am creating something that nobody has ever done before. I am a new category. There's nothing out there in the market, and oftentimes it's not true. What are the signals that a founder, like at the concept stage or at the design phase, should look for and say, hey, this category does not exist because there's no pain to be solved, or this category does not exist because it's not category itself, or it's not something that a customer is willing to pay for, right? What signals should an early stage founder look for when they're creating new categories to abandon that time? Because it's like time and effort, right? You want to fail fast. So I want to hear some of
Yeah, very interesting question actually. So pain always exists. Right? Sometimes the time is right, sometimes time is not there because of multiple reasons. For example, let's say, I don't know, maybe 30 years back could be someone that created Netflix. Because there's not enough bandwidth available even for on internet or broadband and all, right? But the pain, like there was a need, okay, if somebody can stream it real time for movies I need, of course, a lot of people would have said yes, but it was not possible. So many times actually technology or there's a change in behavior because of technology or underlying infrastructure, there's a category creation possibility. Right? So, specifically in our case, I think many of you would remember Clippy, right, in Microsoft Office. I'm not sure you've ever seen, right? Now, that was very specific to Microsoft Office products. Can I get Clippy to all the products? Maybe I'll have to create it separately for SAP, separately for Oracle, on each of the platforms. It's not possible. It's too much of effort, and I don't know what will be the ROI. But now when everything, all the SaaS, complex SaaS products like ERP, HCM, CLM, CPQ, CRMs started getting catered via browser. Now that's possible to create one unique layer or one independent layer which can help solve that particular thing. So pain was already there, pain was always there. That how do I actually engage with my underlying software? But it was not possible because of infrastructure components. As those bottlenecks got resolved, I think it was the right perfect timing actually to enter and actually sell them. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think most of them are covered. Just to add, I think EMF is not trivial. Like even it's not trivial, but it is something that you feel that it's there. Like once you have. And especially if you're a founder, you are going to be working with the initial set of customers. Just the ROI and their reaction and basically how much value you are able to add to them. I think that will basically and the fact that obviously they have to be paying and they have to be getting more value than what they are paying for. So, but once you have that, it's something then you are able to realize that there you have a PMF. But I guess having sort of paying customer initially on and then getting continuous value, I think that is essential.
Yeah, I think obviously PMF is also a journey, right? I mean, there's a LD PMF, then there is sales or scale PMF and so on. But I think when it comes to LD PMF especially, I think and they already mentioned about paying customers, that's definitely one. I think the other lens could also be that, okay, don't just get your friends to buy. I think sometimes we have angel investors, like they are the ones who are first 5-10 customers. I think in some of our cases, obviously, like the first 10 customers were the ones we never knew. So that basically gives a lot more validation of like, okay, you're selling to someone and they see the real value and they're ready to pay, so that gives a lot more validation. And then also the speed at which it is happening, right? I mean, and it comes from like, one is obviously to make sure that you're not speaking to quite different ICPs and confusing yourself, and also A/B testing the pitch in terms of what is that key pain point that really resonates with the prospect, so that you're able to kind of identify while you're pivoting your value proposition what is really sticking, right? So those are some things I can understand.
So I had one more point. I remember one interesting story. So like as he mentioned about investors earlier on, right? So when you were doing again a new category, I think just to give you a so naive, we thought our solution was applicable only to B2B SaaS companies. Because consumers won't need it, it has to be easy. Right? Why would they need something like Workflex? We didn't know other use cases. And when I thought about only B2B SaaS, I thought maybe 10,000 companies globally, maybe a few $1,000s they'll give me a year, my TAM is $100 million. We still jumped into it. Right? Of course, most of the VCs saying it's a waste of time, why you guys are spending so much effort here, you could do something better with a bigger TAM. But once we got product market fit and when we started interacting with customers, we realized there's an adjacent market which is pretty huge. Like, I never realized that when we can go to larger enterprises, inside the company, when they have several thousands employees, they would struggle with the adoption of a CRM, CLM, CPQs, and ERPs and those kind of software. And there are hundreds of software. And suddenly my TAM, which was $100, $200 million, when I started calculating for this market, I myself was not able to believe it was coming to $15, $20 billion, and I was not confident that the VCs are only down to $3, $4 billion.
Fine. One thing that I want to, ask out of all of you guys is like, what is like one go-to-market secret sauce that you're willing to reveal to this audience? Like something that you, like there's a lot of playbooks obviously, right? It's inbound, outbound channel, all those things, but in a category creation, there has to be something that you uniquely did that actually was that's part of the playbook, right? I mean, like one of the things I always said is like, the fastest go-to-market is when you actually don't have a playbook and create a playbook, right? What is that one playbook that you can share from your success to the early stage founders?
I can start. I guess I think for the first 3-4 years of Moengage, it has been a lot of word of mouth and really kind of sales-driven approach to go to market, and like you said, some of the usual stuff. I think especially category creation, one thing that would be important is thought leadership from the broader perspective, because you need to kind of really kind of evangelize the space, evangelize what you're doing. So in our case, we started doing the community events, or building the community. Events is just one part of the community. We call it as hash growth. It's majorly like, we saw that we basically serve the growth marketers or lifecycle marketers and product people, and there is no kind of there's no community where people can learn from each other and share best practices And we saw the need of a community for that. And we felt that, while we build the community, we'll also be able to kind of build the thought leadership about more engage, which will help both engaging our customers as well as even prospects, right? Because in the long term, for every SaaS company, brand is going to be one of the key differentiator, and this can be a way to kind of approach that. So that has worked well for us for the last 3 years. We do quite a bit of different formats of events like this, mixers, smaller scale workshops, training and certification programs, and so on. So that's one thing that has really kind of helped us. And sometimes some of these don't show results immediately after an event, but it has a long-term impact on the overall brand presence.
My head of marketing said, after seeing all your community, I was like, why are we not building a community? And I think marketing was like, it has to apply to the product, right? Not everybody can build a community. In your case, community actually was the game changer, right?
Yeah, and also the community doesn't need to be only you doing. You can also be having companies which are adjacencies and then serving the broader space. That way, I think it makes it much more meaningful.
Yeah, any?
Yeah, so community is actually great. This is something that we've been, we're not doing, but we've been thinking about this. Another one thing which really worked for us, so ours is a mid-price point SaaS product. So for us, it's not possible that we go to all the customers through reference, because you have to build a little bit of a high velocity sort of a sales, both marketing, lead gen and sales pipeline. So for us, and the other thing is that it's also global. So like we have customers from over 50 countries, so we cannot do anything which is very country specific. Otherwise, we'll have to have 50 versions of it, which is not very easy to manage. We essentially have to crack a lot of channels which are sort of scalable. So for us, since we are a data company, what works really well is like content marketing. Anyone who is searching for any company information or comms of a company, or you want to look at what are the new Gen AI companies which are coming up, startups. So essentially, we have to be present with the content. So whenever someone is searching for anything to do with emerging tech or startup or anything across the world, we have to be present there. Either it's through our pages or it's through partnerships that we do with media. So I think that has worked well for us, which is essentially we were able to do, obviously, because we are a data company, that you have to be present there. So interestingly, what we realized is that we are able to attract a lot of customer segments that we had not initially started off with. To give you an example, initially we had started doing outbound mainly to investors, which is your VC and PE funds. Today, nearly half of our revenue is actually through corporates, and a lot of them actually came inbound, like their M&A teams or the other teams. So the other thing, interestingly, about building a more inbound heavy leads engine is also that you are able to attract some customer segments that then you realize, okay, they are also interesting. Like now we have governments as a segment, universities as a segment, right? So that's the other interesting thing, that the inbound you keep figuring out, okay, this is a segment, and then you can probably do something more specific content around that segment.
So, again, a little context, right? To repeat, we have 650 customers, majority of them are enterprise. Intuitively, when you ask anyone, because I was talking to a lot of founder friends or investors and folks who have built companies earlier, they said if you are getting into enterprises, especially large enterprises, Fortune and US and Europe, you need to be there. You need to be physically there. You can't do it remotely. Now, think about, let's say, for first principle, if you think the fundamental behavior, let's say if I'm a general manager or a head of sales or CRO of a Coca-Cola or General Motors, and I want to change my stack from, let's say, Siebel to Salesforce or something like that, I won't do Google. I'm not Googling like which CRM I should buy, because every executive have that mindshare of maybe Salesforce or Dynamics or something, right? What behavior they would have? Let's say, okay, I'm rolling out an RFP of $25-30 million, I would call up my head of procurement and let's run this process. If the procurement guy is not going to Google, they're going to go to Deloitte or Infosys or Accenture, let's run this process, please come up with the solution. Even Infosys, Accenture, or Deloitte are not going to run Googling, right? They will have practices of CRM practices. So this is the typical behavior of well-established category. If you're getting to enterprise in a well-established category, it's very hard to get a mind share unless you're physically present in something differently you do, or you go to initiative. But let's say that digital transformation happened, the new CRM has come in, $25 million has been spent in the company, but people are not adopting the change. They've tried the traditional mechanism, like classrooms and other stuff and all. Now the CRO calls the CLO and saying, okay, I've spent $25 million, but there's no ROI, people are not using it. The guy says, okay, I've tried everything. But the behavior has changed of the people, right? Everybody needs something on demand at that point. Nobody wants to sit in the classroom. Nobody wants to spend their time, right? So they say, okay, figure out what's the other way to do it. Talk to Gartners. What other companies are doing? Talk to Forresters. Ask one of your research assistants to see what's there in the market. Or someone goes to the event or talk to the counterparts in the company, what have you done for change management? Now because there's a behavioral change, in technology which I described, there's a technological change. So there is a possibility of new category players now coming in, getting that mind share for the next few years. Now when you do this, wherever they are looking at, like they're looking at analysts, they are looking at events, they are maybe doing some kind of a Google, what kind of Google they might do. If you think right, I think you can be present in all those places. And that's how we started gradually modeling our GTN. Right? Of course, it started with inbound, outbound, participating in events and all. But I think it's very important to understand the behavior, how your, for first principle, how your buyer would, or the companies or prospects which you are targeting would be actually looking for your solution or something similar, or how they're going to solve the pain point. Then I think just reverse that and you will find another GTN.
It was super insightful, right? I mean, how you said, like, if you are, inbound actually helps you discover new customers that you've never defined. That was one of the key takeaways. I think what was very remarkable about your answer was the clarity of how an enterprise CIO is going to buy and how that information percolates, and you go all the way to the chain and come back and where exactly would they get stuck, and that is the pain they're attacking. Right? It's like almost, you have to be very, very, as a founder, you have to clearly know your buyer's journey in and out. Right? I think you need to really, really know your buyer's journey. It can't be your made-up buyer's journey. It has to be a true buyer's journey.
Just to add one more point, actually, I couldn't add last time in the previous answer. Many people ask me, like, how Portfix as a company is able to get Fortune 500 as a customer, but by a sales and marketing team sitting out in India. So today also, 70% of my new sales happens by team sitting in India. And I'm not talking about India market, I'm talking about US market, Europe market. Right? And these are not deals of 5 to 10K, these are the deals which even spans up to $500,000 and $1 million land. Right? Again, it goes back to the same first principle approach what I told, right? Because it's a new category, there is a possibility now to occupy the mind share. Once you occupy the mind share, it doesn't matter where you are. Right? And gradually you can build that. But if you're in an existing category, then it becomes hard to replicate the same thing.
I think I should have not shared all my questions to you before because you're jumping ahead. I think my next question is like team, right? I think creating category out of India and selling globally. I think I would love for you to share where does your team sit, where does your head of marketing sit, or head of engineering sit, how do they coordinate, like how do you build a team and scale it globally, right? I would love to understand your organization structures, specifically the leadership. Where are they based on?
So both the founders were in India, that's how we started. Once we got some traction, like once we got a couple of $1 million ARR, my co-founder moved to the US and we started gradually hiring in the US as well. We started looking at a specific leadership position where it would add more value, and accordingly we started hiring. So of course my engineering product continued in India. Couldn't get the relevant design talent, so my head of design is in the US. Right? My co-founder was looking at the technology and product, so he doubles up with the customers to understand the roadmap. He helps my head of product and technology. Sales, as I mentioned, most of my sales is in the US, so my CRO is in the US. Now coming to, but within, I'll come back to my sales organization. And coming to marketing, marketing, there are two major aspects here. One is the demand gen, and for a new category, how you position, how you create your messaging, and how you actually build the category narrative. So demand gen actually we were able to do really well here, but this later part we were not. The former part of the category creation or the category awareness, market awareness was not able to do. So we hired a head of product marketing in the US. Rest finance, HR, all those in India. Now coming back to sales specifically. How the whole sales organization evolved for us gradually. We were able to do most of the sales from India, but what we realized, once we ran into an organization, in an enterprise, we were not able to successfully expand. We landed in a CRM. How do we get to ERP? How do we get to success factors or Workday, HR solutions? There are hundreds of solutions. So initial transactional sale was possible, but the relationship building and those things were not happening. So we started creating of account management or a farming team in the US. So the gradual sales model or the GT model, if I have to define in one line, it has to be land from India, expand in the region.
So we have an interesting structure right now. We have nearly an 800 member team. Our entire team is actually based out of India. So I spent the initial 4 years of the company in US, and US was the first market that we started off with. So US was the first market, and then we expanded to India. And we also had a team, initially sales team in US, selling to US, the entire US customer, and Europe was being sold from India. And that happened for the initial, I would say 4 years. And then we realized that the team which was actually selling to Europe had, sort of better efficiency than the team which was based in US and selling to US because of the segment that we are in. And in our segment, for instance, customers are fine with taking their calls, remotely, even though they are Bangalore based. A lot of them would prefer to, get on a call quickly or get on a Zoom call. So for us, because we entered with the price point, mid-price point, people were fine with taking the sales decision over there. So interestingly, right now we have. There's a marketing team which generates a lot of leads, and then we have a sales team that works across the time zones, but they are entirely based out of India. So we have, they work from the morning, the APAC, which is catering to Japan and Singapore, and there's a night shift which caters to North America, and they're all based out of Bangalore. So right now, interestingly, what is working for us is a sales team which is based across all the time zones. We have a support team which is there. What we are also starting to do is a little bit of city trips. So wherever, essentially our customer segment is sort of concentrated in the financial hubs. The top cities which are the financial hubs, there you have the maximum concentration of customers. So now we've started doing sort of city trips, which has helped us in expansion. Like, when you meet their customers, instead of just like 3 people, you're meeting like 20 people of the team. So that has helped. So I think that is how our team is structured.
Yeah. I mean, org structure is obviously very important, especially as you scale, and we are about some 25 plus employees globally, and about 125 plus are across North America, Europe, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Since we are a bit more diverse in terms of our geographies, and we serve mid-market enterprise customers majorly, and so we have local teams across sales, marketing, and CS in each of these regions, and serving those customers, right? And when it comes to the leadership, I think we have a combination of functional and regional leadership. So we have regional leadership in the form of GMs, who look at like North America, Southeast Asia, and India, Middle East, and we have functional leadership, which is in the form of revenue leader, marketing leader, say customer success leader, product marketing leader, and so on. All the regional leadership is kind of based out of those geographies, and then the functional leaders today are based out of India at this point of time. So that's, and we figured out a way who does what and how things can align, and even when it comes to PMF, right? I mean, especially if you're serving mid-market enterprise customers, I mean, you'll have to kind of do that kind of journey of establishing PMF in each of your regions. Just because you have PMF in India, I mean, you don't have PMF in US, you don't have PMF in Southeast Asia, unless you are a fully digital, only SMB or self-serve driven approach. So yeah, I think, and so we have gone through that journey in each of these markets and done that.
Thanks for sharing. I think all 3 of you have completely different org structures. Right? I think it's very unique. You're very regional. You're running it out of India, and you have like sell from here and expand in the US. Right? I think that was phenomenal. I think great lessons. Right? I think last question before I open up the audience. Right? I think this is very critical. Right? You created a great product, figured out how to sell, created a team. Like, what was your culture mantra? Like, how did you keep, like, you have to keep the team motivated, keep the culture going, especially when you're having like 3 or 4 geographies, right? I mean, any lessons on how to keep the team intact, keep them motivated, and, like, or any cultural values that you guys adopted and you're like fiercely following today?
Yeah, so I think there are good learnings we had in in culture part. So I think most important is what is culture, right? Like culture is how leaders behave on the floor, or what actions we do, not what we just believe in our actions. So initially how founders behave, or the early leaders want to get on board, how they start behaving, I think that's how the culture will evolve in the company. Most of the things when we started defining it, we started speaking with employees and identified what are the core values which they think when they consider how things are happening in Workflex. Some of them were consciously we were doing as a founders, like which we coined it return customer first. Like whenever there was a customer query coming in, within 10 minutes, like either me or my co-founder used to immediately respond. And that became a cultural trait across the company, and we named it as a customer first. And we never knew that would become a differentiator for us while winning the deals. So sometimes it just evolves so much. Then how about because as a new category, we want to keep on innovating, right? So we need to innovate. To innovate, we need to experiment. So we wanted to create the culture of people experimenting. So hustle mode, how they try and fail fast. So several such things actually started evolving. There was some negative aspect also, I would say. In early days, we were very frugal. We didn't spend easily, right? Because we wanted to conserve cash. Then we started checking on the ground, and after once we had enough, like we had a couple of rounds, I saw a couple of team members, managers coming to us saying that, okay, I want to buy this software. This is the cheapest one, right? So that's where my cultural trait went wrong. So we created, at that point, added another cultural value because we wanted to consciously change that trade. And we don't want to be cheap, right? So we said frugal but not cheap. Get it best in class. Because if we want to perform at the top grade and the highest level, we need to have the best possible tools and processes and software and people to be available. So sometimes, subconsciously, you also put a trade which might be relevant in the early days, but when you start scaling, it may not be relevant. So you have to consciously keep observing and keep changing or keep optimizing it. And to ensure that culture goes across the company, it's very important to establish communication cadences, like how frequently you communicate with the leaders, how the information is shared across companies, your all hands, your team meetings, your monthly meetings, and so on. And also when you start scaling, it's very important to ensure that cultural traits are identified and evaluated during hiring, and also in all your appraisals. So I think after some time we had to fulfill a chart in which started putting a lot of science behind this.
So for us, obviously, it's a very key question which is there. So for us, a couple of the things which have worked is we actually have a culture book which lists down some of the values that we stand for, or we want people to go, or we want people to know. Simple things like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Right? So you have to continue to perform. It's not that you're performing for like 1 month and then you're not doing there, and then you have a whole team. So that is one of the things, one small example which is there. So we actually have that, and then we also have posters of that, in the office of various things that which resonate with people. So that is one. The second is that whenever we have the joinings of essentially, some of the senior people, then we have a session with them. Very it's a casual session, but there it's a time that you talk about some of those things that which is there in the organization, which people sort of value and people are sort of have incorporated. The third thing is obviously that you practice it on a daily basis. Simple things like taking decisions. So you make the people take decisions, and then we have sort of a framework for that. But essentially, people don't come and ask, okay, what should I do, and give me all this thing. Everyone has to take a decision and then obviously get it reviewed. So the third thing is having these small things as part of the everyday process. Another example is that we want most of the people who are who are part of the leadership to be knowing tech, because that is very essential for us. So there's a compressed course which is there of sort of automation that everyone who joins in, they actually take that course. And they have, people have to know sort of Google scripts. Even if you're leadership, you have to sort of know that, because that comes in very handy. So the third thing is just having these small things across the whole log that also makes it part of your daily sort of activity.
Yeah, I think they covered quite a bit of things. I'll just focus on what I could add. I think as companies scale, and especially as SaaS companies scale as well, I think like having a very momentum is very important for any company. I think that drives the energy, that drives everything within the company, right? So we have created an operating cadence, which and it could be monthly in the beginning, and it could be quarterly at our stage right now, and basically having very clear visibility of the goal setting across the overall organization. I think and having that operating cadence would really generally keeps the momentum. And because especially as a SaaS company, it's not about just doing one quarter well. You need to do every quarter well and do better every quarter than the previous one. So having a very consistent operating cadence obviously helps. I think the second thing is for SaaS companies especially, and we also serve consumer companies, right? Because for consumer companies, if they want to see results, I mean, they can do something and they can see results in the same month, for example, right? But especially in SaaS, what happens, especially when you're looking at like more like downstream results, I mean, it takes 1-2 quarters to start seeing leading indicators, and more to start seeing lagging indicators like revenue and so on, right? So, which also means, and at the same time, you want to kind of have, like if you're doing like $1 million a quarter, and if you want to kind of scale to $5 million a quarter over like 2-year time frame, for example, you need to do things differently quarter and quarter so that you actually you do better results, right? So creating a culture of experimentation and learning, I think will be important.
I think we have a lot of time for audience questions. So is there a mic that somebody can pass around?
Hi, my question is for Neha. Thank you, panelists. This is a really exciting session. Neha, why do you move all your team back to India after after being in the US for the first 4 years? Did you find it like difficult to work remotely, or what was the reason?
So for us, for me, it was more a call that where your core team is, and we realized that our entire tech product, data analyst team was getting built out of India. And the GTM was also happening because ours is a lot of tech-driven sort of GTM. A lot of that was also happening from India. Initially, obviously, I spent in US because I did not know what will work. If field sales was the way this industry would have sort of worked, then maybe we would have had an office over there. But then we realized in our customer segment, people are fine with inside sales, and people are able to do that. Then initially, obviously, as a founder, you have to do a lot of sales yourself, so you have to stay where your customers are. Eventually, once you have team, you are spending a lot of time in other functions. Maybe product is the initial thing for the first couple of years, and then again it goes back to GTM. But I think then you have to be where your core team is, where you are spending most of the time. So then, after the initial sales, then the sales team took over, and then product was, for instance, one of the key things. And that is why coming here made sense. Because over there, we still continue to sort of keep visiting, so we keep going there very frequently in meetings with the customers. But because your main role sort of requires you to be here, that's why the decision made sense to come back here.
Thanks a lot.
Hello. Hey guys, I'm Daksh, founder and CEO of Brooklyn, and this is our second startup, and we are building, a very decade-old, industry, which is kind of, ERP plus for SMB manufacturers. So we're building a SaaS where the idea is to convert their factories into smart factories, right? And we are it's been 6 months into the journey, and we are reaching almost 3-digit paid customers in the next 1 quarter. The idea is we are looking to expand in the US market, primarily, Mexico and North America, and would love to understand, the GTM, primarily, what we have understood is direct sales is one of the part that could work, right? So, Khalid, probably if you can tell from your experience also.
Can you be more specific? I mean, like, GTM was very, very broad. It's like, is this specific question you have?
Sure. So I understand, there is channel sales or outbound. So I'll tell you, what the question is. So I've spoken to a couple of founders so far, who have built GTM for US, right? Some of them have said that outbound sales have worked really good for them, right? And some of them have said that, Meta ads or, inbound actually SEO really work for them, right? And the idea is, from the SME manufacturing space, and one of the other suggestions is founder has to sit in US, right? So the dilemma I'm coming from is we are a seed stage startup, just raised, first round of funding, right? And with the current winter, it would not allow us, to sit in US and spend, 500 or 1 million kind of a journey for that, right? So from that point of view, all I'm looking for is certain hacks that helps us set a pipeline where you guys have built certain hacks in your time, where build from India, of course, and build for US, but yeah, certain hacks that will.
Good question for Karan.
So I think as I mentioned in one of my answers, right, like it is very, you have to start thinking from your buyer persona perspective, how they are actually discovering solutions for their problem today. Right, if they are attending events or if they are looking online. So once you have the answer, your channel starts becoming easier, right? So I think if they are looking online, then maybe definitely inbound definitely should work. Outbound, at least initially you should try because whether the messaging resonates, whether you're getting responses. So I think you have to keep experimenting. There's no straightforward answer here. In terms of solving your problem, in terms of winter or cash, right? Because you can't hire in US or you can't shift to US. I think what we also tried initially was like create conversations as many as possible remotely. And once you have, let's say, 7 or 8 conversations going on, make a quarterly trip to US and try to meet everyone. Right? And I think that works. Also, maybe when you travel, you can also coincide those trips along with some events to participate. Like okay, when you go to one of the manufacturing events and where you can meet 8 to 10 prospects, along with the 7, 8 conversations which are already being on. I think that will help you to optimize as much as possible. But I think once you understand your buyer persona very, very clearly and how they are looking for the solution and what the current landscape for them, if you're looking at displacement, then again it will be a completely different way to think about it. So I think maybe it has to be very, very contextual.
Hello. Maybe golden nugget, right? It basically says like events plus prospects. I think there's an intersection. If your prospect is attending an event, you have to be in that event. Right? That is the magic bullet there for you.
Just one caveat actually, maybe it might have worked in some situation, but at least too early trying alliances might be hard because unless you figure out your sales channel, you have repeatable sales motion, it is very hard to make alliances or partners work. You might want to.
And I can just add one point. I think we initially want to get up to conversations, right? You want to kind of set up those conversations. If you can't do it yourself through outbound, I mean, there are also agencies who also can set up like they're more of a different pitch around expert calls. Maybe that could be a tactic that can bring you those initial conversations as well.
Thank you. And we have time for 2 more questions.
My question is to Khalid. This is Anu Pai from Dreammatch. We are an AI-based photo distribution platform. So when you said that you would buy the mind share when it comes to the enterprise sales, so what do you exactly mean that? Because we are facing some confusion when it comes to the pricing part. When you go for the enterprise deal, so will it be the same if you tell to the mid segment? So can you just elaborate that?
For some reason, it's not coming to the audio is not coming through. I don't even understand the question.
Okay. So you told the word occupy the mind share of that. So is it related to the pricing part? Because when we reach to the enterprise segment, can you please elaborate that point?
So see, when you start initially, as a new category, and you're very clear about the value proposition, you might price based on what you see in adjacencies or some other competition or whatever. That's how you typically try to range, right? Or cost-based price. But once you start understanding the ROI, delivery or the value what customer is deriving out of your solution, I think best is to use the price based on those aspects. I'll give you a simple example. Like mine is a 900 people company. If somebody comes to sell me WhatFix, saying it will help you to enable your employees or your sales team or something, I would consider as a tool. And maybe if they say okay, $30,000-$40,000, yeah, fair enough. I can pay at max, right? Now imagine the same product. If somebody comes to WhatFix and says, okay, your current sales behavior is, this is how they behave, right? If you use smart nudges, which will actually improve your win rate. Like this is a historical example of one of our customers of your site where win rate has improved by 1.5%. Suddenly it will I start calculating, okay, if 1% increase in win rate means $2 million additional fee for me in a year. And when the next slide comes about the pricing, I'm already having an anchor there. And the guy says, okay, I'm going to charge you $150,000. I won't feel too hard. I would say, okay, let's negotiate or whatever, it will be 120. Suddenly I have come out of that mentality of tool. Like, it's a tool, maybe I have some anchor there. But if it's a solution or a problem which is they are solving for me, and they've quantified that as an ROI, I know how much they can charge. So I think as long as you can understand the value prop, what you are providing, and what kind of ROI or business outcomes you're going to impact for your customers, you can actually go back and start pricing based on that, and you will have huge leverage.
So you're saying they won't go for comparison in the market in that case?
See, you can compare. So again, another example. Let's say there are many competitors now for us also in the market, right? Now, if I can again I have my same tool, same product for all industries as well. Now I have to go head to head, and there will be pricing comparison as well. I can always have some differentiation in terms of better features or XYZ. But now, let's say because I'm leading in the industry, I created a good wrapper around my product and created a solution specific, let's say, for insurance. And when I go and start now competing with other players, they are still pitching their platform, saying, okay, it is applicable for insurance, and everywhere I say, okay, now I'm giving out of box for insurance. The effort for me was only to understand that industry and put maybe few percent of effort, but now suddenly my price leverage became like 1.5x of the rates in that industry. So there are different ways actually, how competitive, are you able to actually identify that business use case for that particular industry, for that person, and actually create a proper solution and give them the value. I think you will have a huge advantage.
Thank you.
Well, I think we are out of time. Thank you so much. I personally learned a lot of things from all of you. I think